Good morning everyone. Today's class is on fallopian tubes and placenta. Placenta. At term, the normal placenta is blue-red, rounded, flattened and discoid organ, 15 to 20 cm in diameter and 2 to 4 cm thick. It weighs 400 to 600 grams or about 1/6 the weight of the newborn. The umbilical cord is about 50 cm long and contains 2 umbilical arteries and 1 umbilical vein attached at the fetal surface. This is a diagram of placental anatomy. Here we could see within the outer boundary of myometrium is a layer of decidua from which the maternal vessels originate and deliver blood to and from the intervillous spaces. Umbilical vessels branch and terminate in placental villi where the nutrient exchange takes place. This is a gross picture of a placenta. Here we could see membranes attached to it along with the fallopian tube. Along with the umbilical cord attached to it. So placenta, membrane and umbilical cord which is attached to it. This is a histology of normal placenta. In this photomicrograph, we could see placenta which is of first trimester. Here chorionic villi are seen, which are composed of delicate mesh of central stroma surrounded by 2 discrete layers of epithelium. The outer one, which is represented by 2 arrows, is syncytial trophoblast, and the inner one, which is represented by 1 arrow, is cytotrophoblast. Here this is a photomicrograph of placenta in 3rd trimester. Here we could see chorionic villi composed of stroma with dense network of dilated capillaries surrounded by markedly thinned out cytotrophoblast and syncytial trophoblast. Placenta is derived from both maternal and fetal tissue. The maternal portion of the placenta has irregular grooves dividing it into cotyledons, which are composed of sheets of decidua bassalis and remnants of blood vessels. The fetal portion of the placenta is composed of numerous functional units called chorionic villi and comprise the major part of placenta at term. The villi consist of loose fibrovascular stromal core and a few phagocytic cells. Phagocytic cells in placenta are known as Hopf cells. Numerous enzymes and hormones are secreted by placenta into the maternal blood. These include HCG, which is human chorionic gonadotrophin, HPL, which is human placental lactogen, chorionic thyrotrophin, and adrenocorticotrophin hormone, which takes part in estrogen and progesterone metabolism. Certain diseases are related to pregnancy and placenta. These are placentitis and chorioamnionitis. Placentitis is inflammation of placenta and chorioamnionitis is inflammation of chorionic membranes. Placental abnormalities as placenta accreta, placenta previa and twin placenta. Toxemia of pregnancy, eclampsia and preeclampsia, and products of gestation seen in abortions. However, gestational trophoblastic diseases resulting from benign and malignant overgrowth of trophoblast are hydatidiform mole, which has both complete and partial mole, and choriocarcinoma. Now, let's deal with hydatidiform mole. What does it mean by hydatidiform? Hydatidiform is drop of water and mole means shapeless mass. So, now hydatidiform is defined as abnormal placenta and it has 2 characteristic features. First is it has enlarged edematous and hydropic change of chorionic villi which become vesicular, and second, it has variable amount of trophoblastic proliferation. The incidence of molar pregnancy is high in teenagers and in older women. Frequency of hydatidiform mole varies in different regions of the world. The incidence in Asia and Central America is about 10 times higher than in the United States. Here, there is how is the pathogenesis of it? The origin of complete and partial hydatidiform mole. In the figure A, we see how complete mole is formed. Here it commonly happens arise from the fertilization of empty ovum by single sperm. This undergo duplication and forms homozygous complete mole, that is 46XX. Then in B we could see less dispermy, that is 2 sperms which is of 23X or Y, which are fertilizing an empty ovum, and that will give rise to a heterozygous complete mole, that is 46XX and 46XY. And less commonly we'll see partial mole, which is 23X or Y. Here also dispermy takes place, and that 23X or Y will fertilize the ovum, which is again 23X. So on duplication it will form 69XX, 69XXY or 69XYY. This form is rare, which is triploid partial mole. So complete classic mole is by cytogenetic studies has been shown to be derived from father, that is androgenesis, and has 46XX or rarely 46XY chromosomal pattern. Complete mole bears relationship to choriocarcinoma. Partial mole is mostly triploid, that is 69XXY or 69XXX, and rarely tetraploid. Partial mole rarely develops into choriocarcinoma. Clinically, the condition appears in 4th to 5th month of the gestation and is characterized by increase in uterine size, vaginal bleeding, and often with symptoms of toxemia. Frequently, there is a history of passage of grape-like masses per vaginum. The single most significant investigation forming the mainstay of management is the serial determination of beta-HCG, which is elevated more in both blood and urine as compared with the levels in the normal pregnancy. Removal of mole is accompanied by fall in beta-HCG levels. About 10% of the patient with complete mole develop into invasive mole and 2.5 into choriocarcinoma. Now let's discuss about complete mole or classic mole. Grossly, the uterus is enlarged and characteristically filled with grape-like vesicles which are up to 3 cm in diameter. The vesicles contain clear watery fluid. Rarely a macerated fetus may be formed. Here it is a uterus containing a hydatidiform mole. The specimen shows numerous variable sized grape-like translucent vesicles containing clear fluid. Tan areas of hemorrhages are also seen. This is a photograph showing complete hydatidiform mole. Here we can see marked distension of uterus by vesicular chorionic villi. Microscopically, large, round, edematous, acellular villi due to hydropic degeneration forming central cisterns. Decreased vascularity of villus stroma and trophoblastic proliferation in the form of masses and sheaths of both cytotrophoblast and syncytiotrophoblasts, generally circumferential around the villi. Here we could see the photomicrograph which is showing hydatidiform mole characterized by hydropic and avascular enlarged villi with trophoblastic proliferation in the form of masses and sheaths. In the photomicrograph, we could see hydropic villus core, syncytiotrophoblast, trophoblastic proliferation, and cytotrophoblast. Here we could see complete hydatidiform mole. In this photomicrograph, we could see villi which have extensive stromal edema with central cisterns and enlarged villi with circumferential proliferation of trophoblast. Now coming to partial mole. Grossly, the uterus is generally smaller than expected and contains some cystic villi, while part of placenta appears normal. A fetus with multiple malformation is often present. In microscopy, some of the villi show edematous change, while others are normal or even fibrotic. Trophoblastic proliferation is usually slight and focal. This is a photomicrograph showing partial hydatidiform mole. Here we could see a mixture of enlarged villi, small villi, normal sized villi and fibrotic villi. And there is a mild hephizartic trophoblastic hyperplasia and scalloped villus surface with trophoblastic enfoldings forming inclusion. The arrow here is representing that. Now coming to invasive or destructive mole, which is known as chorioadenoma destruens. Grossly invasive mole shows invasion of the molar tissue into the uterine wall, which may show source of hemorrhage. Microscopy, the lesion is benign and identical to classic mole but has potential for hemorrhage. It is always associated with persistent elevation of beta-HCG levels. Now coming to choriocarcinoma. Gestational choriocarcinoma is a highly malignant and widely metastasizing tumor of trophoblast. Approximately 50% of the cases occurs following hereditary mole, 25% following spontaneous abortion, 20% after otherwise normal pregnancy, and 5% develop in ectopic pregnancy. Clinically, the most common complaint is vaginal bleeding following a normal or abnormal pregnancy. Persistent high levels of beta-HCG in plasma and urine and widespread hematogenous metastases are found chiefly in lungs, vagina, brain, liver and kidneys. Coming to morphological feature, grossly the tumors appear as hemorrhagic, soft and fleshy mass. Sometimes the tumor may be small or often like a blood clot in the uterus. This is a photograph which is representing choriocarcinoma. In the left side we could see a uterus. In that we could see a large hemorrhagic mass involving both endometrium and myometrium. This is choriocarcinoma. Now in the figure which is on the right side, we can see choriocarcinoma metastasizing into liver. Here we could see multiple circumscribed and hemorrhagic masses in the liver. Microscopically, there is absence of identifiable villi, masses and columns of highly anaplastic and bizarre cytotrophoblast and syncytiotrophoblastic cells which are intermixed, and there is invariable presence of hemorrhage and necrosis. Invasion of underlying myometrium and other structures, blood vessels and lymphatics. This is a photomicrograph of choriocarcinoma illustrating neoplastic cytotrophoblast and syncytiotrophoblastic. Gestational choriocarcinoma and its metastasis respond very well to chemotherapy, while non-gestational choriocarcinoma is quite resistant to the therapy and has worse prognosis. With hysterectomy and chemotherapy, which are the main modalities of treatment. The effectiveness of treatment is also monitored by serial beta-HCG determinations. Death from choriocarcinoma is generally due to fatal hemorrhage in the CNS or lungs or from pulmonary insufficiency. Now let's see the comparative features of major forms of gestational trophoblastic diseases. Here we will see complete mole, partial mole, choriocarcinoma, and what are the major differences in all these three. So we will deal with the features such as, first we will deal with karyotype. The karyotype of complete mole is 46XX or 46XY, whereas in partial mole it is triploid, that is 69XXY or 69XXX, and choriocarcinoma it is 46XY or variable. Clinically, diagnosis will be in complete mole there will be mole, partial mole there is missed abortion, and choriocarcinoma abortion, molar, ectopic or normal pregnancy. Vaginal bleeding is marked in complete mole and choriocarcinoma, whereas it is mild in partial mole. Uterus size is large in complete mole, whereas it is small in partial mole and is generally not bulky in choriocarcinoma. Now let's see what about HCG levels. The serum HCG levels is high in complete mole and choriocarcinoma and low in partial mole. Whereas in HCG in tissues, it is marked in complete mole and localized in syncytiotrophoblastic only in choriocarcinoma, whereas it is very mild in partial mole. Embryo is not present in complete mole and choriocarcinoma, whereas in partial mole it can be present. Now, the gross appearance. Vesicles are large and regular in complete mole, small and irregular in partial mole, and there are no vesicles seen in choriocarcinoma. Villi is present in both complete and partial mole, but choriocarcinoma is characterized by absence of villi. Microscopy. Villus size is uniform in complete mole, variable in partial mole, and hydropic villi is seen everywhere in complete mole, some places at partial mole, and it's not seen at all in choriocarcinoma. Trophoblastic proliferation is diffuse, and all three, that is cytotrophoblast, syncytial trophoblast and intermediate trophoblast, are seen in complete mole, whereas it is focal and syncytial trophoblast only in partial mole. And choriocarcinoma has both cyto and syncytial trophoblast. Atypia is diffuse in complete mole, marked in choriocarcinoma, and minimal in partial mole. Blood vessels are generally absent in complete mole, whereas it is present in partial mole at choriocarcinoma. Persistence after initial therapy is 20% in complete mole, 7% in partial mole, and may metastasize rapidly if not treated in choriocarcinoma. And behavior, 2% of the complete mole may develop choriocarcinoma, and choriocarcinoma never develops in partial mole. And survival with chemotherapy is 70% in choriocarcinomas. So this summarizes our gestational trophoblastic diseases. So now we will see what is grossly difference in complete mole and partial mole. Here in complete mole, the hydropic villi range from few mm to more than 1 cm in diameter, whereas in partial mole, hydropic villi is mixed with smaller normal appearing villi. Now let's move on to fallopian tubes. Fallopian tubes or oviducts are paired structures, each extending from superior angle of the uterus laterally to the regions of ovary and running in the superior border of broad ligaments forming mesosalpinx. Each tube is 7 to 14 cm long and is divided into 4 parts. That is interstitial portion in the uterine cornual wall, narrow isthmic portion, wider ampullary portion, and funnel-like distal infundibulum. So in this photograph, the parts of fallopian tube are clearly seen: isthmus, ampulla, infundibulum, and fimbriae. The infundibulum is fringed by fimbriae, the longest of which, called fimbria ovarica, is attached to the ovary. Histologically, the wall of the tube has 4 coats: serous forming the peritoneal covering, subserous consisting of fibrovascular tissue, muscular composed of longitudinal and circular smooth muscle layers, and tubal mucosa having 3 types of cells, namely ciliated, columnar, and dark intercalated cells. This is a histology of fallopian tube. In the center you could see a lumen which is surrounded by mucosal folds. Then you could see muscularis and serosal layer. In between you could see the blood vessels. The tubal serosal covering may contain tiny nodular masses of mesothelial cells forming Walther's cell rest. The major conditions involving the fallopian tubes are inflammations, ectopic tubal gestation, and endometriosis. Coming to inflammation, salpingitis and pelvic inflammatory disease. Pelvic inflammatory disease, by definition, is a clinical syndrome characterized by signs and symptoms of ascending infection beginning in vulva or vagina and spreading through the entire genital tract. Most commonly, pelvic inflammatory diseases occurs as venereally transmitted infection, chiefly caused by Chlamydia trachomatis and Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Morphological features. Grossly, the fallopian tubes are invariably involved bilaterally. The distal end is blocked by inflammatory exudate and the lumina are dilated. There may be formation of loculated tubo-ovarian abscess involving tube, ovary, broad ligament and adjacent part of uterus. Microscopy. The appearance varies with the duration of inflammatory process. The process begins with acute salpingitis characterized by edema and intense acute inflammatory infiltrate of neutrophils involving the tubal mucosa as well as wall. The lumen is filled with purulent exudate consisting of leukocytes and slough of epithelial cells. The purulent process may extend to involve tube as well as ovary, causing salpingo-oophorytes and forming tubo-ovarian abscess. The escape of purulent exudate into the peritoneal cavity produces pelvic peritonitis and pelvic abscess. Pyosalpinx is distension of fallopian tube with pus due to occluded fimbrial end. The end result of pyosalpinx after resorption of the purulent exudate is hydrosalpinx, in which the tube is thin-walled, dilated and filled with clear watery fluid. Acute salpingitis may resolve with treatment, but some cases pass into chronic salpingitis with infiltrate of polymorphs, lymphocytes, plasma cells and fibrosis. Salpingitis isthmica nodosa used to be considered another manifestation of chronic salpingitis, but currently accepted by pathogenesis of this lesion appears to be similar to that of adenomyosis. Nevertheless, the appearance is characterized by multiple nodules containing spaces which are lined by benign tubal epithelium. Inflammatory changes are scant or absent. Now coming to tubercular salpingitis. Tubercular salpingitis is almost always secondary to focus elsewhere in the body. The tubercle bacilli reach the tube most commonly by hematogenous route, generally from lungs, but occasionally from urinary tract or abdominal cavity. The incidence of tuberculosis in developing countries like India is estimated to be about 5%. It affects more commonly young women in their active reproductive life, and the most common complaint is infertility. Now coming to morphological features. Grossly, the tube is dilated and contains purulent exudate, though the fimbrial end is generally patent. The tubal peritoneum as well as the peritoneum in general is studded with yellowish tubercles. Microscopy, typical caseating granulomas and chronic inflammation are identified in tubal serosa, muscularis and mucosa. So this is a photomicrograph of tubercular salpingitis. Here you could see a granuloma and chronic inflammatory infiltrate consisting of lymphocyte is noted. Now ectopic tubal pregnancy. The term ectopic tubal pregnancy is used for implantation of fertilized ovum in the tube. Though ectopic pregnancy may rarely occur in the uterine horn, cornua, ovary and abdominal cavity, tubal pregnancy is by far the most common form of ectopic gestation. Several factors which predisposes to ectopic pregnancy are pelvic inflammatory disease, previous tubal surgery, use of intrauterine contraceptive device and congenital anomalies of the female genital tract. The most frequent site of tubal pregnancy is ampullary portion and the least common site is interstitial pregnancy. Ectopic tubal pregnancy is a potentially hazardous problem because of rupture which is followed by intraperitoneal hemorrhage. This is a photograph of ectopic tubal gestation. Here it is showing a fallopian tube. The lumen of the fallopian tube is dilated in the middle and contain a dark tan hemorrhagic and friable gestational tissue which is having sac, fetus and placenta. Now coming to tumors and tumor-like lesions. Tumor in the fallopian tubes are rare. Relatively more common are hydatidis of Morgagni or para-ovarian cyst, which are unilocular, thin-walled cyst hanging from tubal fimbriae. So here in this photograph we could see uterus attached as fallopian tube, ovary and fallopian tube, and the hydatid cyst of Morgagni, which are represented by arrows, is seen hanging from the fimbrial end of the fallopian tube. The other rare tumors include adenomatoid tumors, leiomyomas, teratomas, adenocarcinomas, choriocarcinoma, all of which are similar in morphology to such tumors elsewhere in the body. With this, I finish my class. Now in this class, I have covered fallopian placenta and fallopian tubes. Thank you.